Hello and welcome to Man's Model Moments Midweek Model Meet. That was good. I just timed that perfectly. I just went downstairs to get a beer and I literally just arrived as the countdown was coming on. So good timing. Happy New Year, everybody, to those of you who haven't said it to already. And let me invite in Gary, who is with us tonight. Happy New Year to you, sir.
Happy New Year to you too, Alex. How you doing, my friend?
Well, good and bad. I mean, I've got a beer.
Always a good thing.
I have my sanity. I think
That's
I've got my
even
health,
better.
but still haven't, as you can tell from the boxes behind me, still haven't moved.
Mhm.
So, yeah, they planned. Well, we were supposed to move on the 13th of December.
Okay.
The chain got held up for reasons entirely down to solicitors and estate agents. They wanted to do it on the 3rd after coming back on the 2nd, and I was like, no way. The 10th, maybe.
Yeah.
The 10th isn't going to happen.
No.
Fingers crossed the 17th. Otherwise, it'll be the week after. So we've lost it more than a month. It killed my December business at the shop because I've not been able to be there. It's just been a nightmare. So, yeah, that bit not so good. But we shall put away those negative things and look forward to the future positively.
Absolutely.
How about yourself? Did you have a good break?
It was good. A few family awful things happening which didn't make Christmas go wonderfully well, but otherwise it's fine. Everything's grand. Everything's good. I'm moving too, by the way.
Oh, really? Right.
Yeah. I'm moving from this here spare room into what I lovingly now call the North Wing, which is it's a garden office we're having built.
Oh, right.
Oh, I'm moving the studio and production and everything into that. So my dear wife gets the spare room back. I don't have to sit here next to a load of wardrobes, and I have space to build and film and do everything. So it's really exciting.
That's awesome. So are you going to catalogue that? Are you going to do video on that?
I've been doing build videos of it already.
Right,
I've just been editing episode 6, which is putting the roof and the floor down. Well, roof up and floor down. They got it the right way around, fortunately. Good builders. And after that, it'll be doing the interiors and electrics.
Have you put any of those out yet?
Yeah.
I'm just YouTube. I haven't had any of those notifications. I am subbed to you.
Crazy. So, yeah, it's about five, I think, so far, from like planning, deciding whether to go brick or wood, and then throughout to actually getting down and doing the stuff. So yeah,
I'll have to check those out. It's a good point, actually. For those of you in the chat, it's worth noting YouTube keeps doing this, and it's not just modeling channels, it's across the board. You'll hear on all kinds of YouTube videos about how they it's not de-sub you, although that does happen in some cases. I think that's more on sort of political and review channels and stuff.
Sure.
But de-notify. So they change their notifications. So if you click the bell, but you don't, and you have to click it to all as well. If you don't have globally set in YouTube that you will receive notifications, it doesn't matter if you've clicked the bell and said all, it still won't send you notifications. So it's worth checking in your YouTube settings. If you're not receiving, not just for our channels, but in general, notifications, it's worth checking that out and redoing it for all the channels. I've had to do it 2 or 3 times in the last year or so on some of the channels that I look at. And even so, you still have to go in sometimes and think, I haven't heard a video from, I don't know, 32 or Nerdrotic or whatever for a while. And then you go in and it's just like, oh, that's because I'm not getting notifications.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
So let's just see who is in the chat. I suspect a lot of the usual, which is always good to see. And maybe one or two news. So Michael Myers, Mystery Box Nick, welcome.
Hey.
World War II scale models, Dave. Welcome to you. We've got Julian Hall, we've got John Christmas, just scroll down, got Richard Trinder, scale models, welcome. We have Gary from Gremlins Modeling Mayhem, Idwell Williams, David Markey, Trust you all had good Christmases, guys. We've got John Alec scale modeling in. Hopefully he'll be popping into the studio in a little while. Appreciate it's still a bit early for him over in the US. David Barber. We got me. Popped in the chat there. The Little Things Junkie. That's a good channel name. We've got Gav. Happy New Year to you as well. Got Keith. Taggers, good to see you. Let's see, Stuart. Most people I've already said. Apologies if I miss anybody. It's not deliberate. There's a lot of Davids and a lot of Marks and people, Garys, so it's difficult sometimes to distinguish you all and remember which surnames I've said.
Absolutely.
Nich Lepstra. Apologies if I've probably massacred that, but hello. Driftwood Modeling, good to see you. And I think that brings us up pretty close. We've got Phil, DP Gumby, I can't get my teeth in. I must need some more beer. James
Definitely.
Fisher.
Definitely.
And I think I've got pretty much everybody there. Oh, Craig Jukes is in. Good to see you. The Flying Dutchman, Dutch Dave's Modeling Bench. And I think that is up to date. Apologies if I've missed you. As always, if you've got questions or comments, put capital questions or QQQ so that we can pick it out, or capital comments if you want us to notice you in amongst all the other chat. Because as we often go off on tangents and just get involved in discussion, sometimes it's difficult to pick those out. So anyway, I thought as we have a new year upon us, that we'd have a little discussion about our New Year's, what we've got planned for, well, mostly modelling. I guess general life is bound to come in there a little bit as well. And get your suggestions as well. Certainly for myself, I'm looking at, what I do for the channel for 2025. I've got obviously ideas, things that I want to do, but always happy to take suggestions and see where that leads us. So let's start off with you, Gary. What have you got planned for your channel in 2025?
The first thing is moving, obviously, as I say, which hopefully will free up a lot of space and energy to do lots of other things, and to just actually get back to making some models. I haven't made many recently, and it's beginning to really bug me. So make some models would be nice.
I feel the same.
Yeah. The odd thing though, it's kind of weird when it's your job. It's kind of weird to think, right, this is what I'd like to be doing, as opposed to this is what it appears I should be doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
I'd like to be making lots and lots of models and chatting away about making lots and lots of models. However, the things that are getting the views are more informational things, like Aldi and Lidl offers, or the airfix Black Friday things, or the ICM range launch, or obviously next week the airfix range launch, mini, all these sorts of things which are not involving me actually making something are the things that are getting seen more.
Yes.
So I'm kind of thinking maybe sort of informational thing, maybe a bit more of a news hubby sort of thing is where I should be going. They're easier to make in some respects because I don't have to wait for paint to dry and all the rest of it. But and they take less editing, perhaps. But it's
an interesting one, isn't it, Guy? Because like I think my most viewed video last year, with a ridiculous number of views, like 300,000 or 350,000 views, which for a modeling channel is racking on.
Yeah.
Was the Revel 2024 range release.
Yeah.
Which to me is probably one of the least interesting things we did last year. As Maria would call it, it's my reading from a list video.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's all information that anybody can get, but just that they do really well.
Alex, my best video every year for the last 3 years. Last 3 years I've been doing this stuff, right? The best video has always been either Aldi or Lidl's Christmas offer. Now, if you break it down, it is essentially just saying, this is a kit. It's £7. It's in Aldi. So go to Aldi, get this. It will cost you £7. It's just £7 at Aldi. You can get this kit for 3 minutes. And there's some others, like 5 kits, each of which is £6.99, whatever. 160,000 views.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and
so you can slave away for 3 months on a build.
But then because it's tagged with Aldi, it gets promoted to people who are looking for gift ideas from Aldi or whatever. So with clever keywording, it can get fed into the algorithm, which then pushes it to so many other people, which is fantastic. But you think, okay, but they only do this twice a year, once in Christmas, once in summer. That's not a business model. So what else
and also,
with?
It's that kind of thing of because like you, YouTube is one of my primary sources of income. So it's kind of what is successful isn't necessarily what is enjoyable, which I think you were alluding to earlier. And I think it's really for us as content creators, whatever you want to call us. That's quite a difficult balance to get, to not burn out, because YouTube burnout is a thing. It's not unique to YouTube. Artists get it, all kinds of people get it. But to keep that, spark, if you like, the enjoyment for the hobby going, when you're primarily doing things that aren't that, they're related, but it's a bit like having a job in. I mean, I had a job in life sciences for almost 30 years. Because I loved biology. Originally, as a child, I loved animals. I wanted to be David Attenborough. I ended up in a job adjacent to that. Yeah, it was life sciences. It had nothing to do with zoology. It had nothing to do with animals, really. It was, cellular and genetics and lab stuff. I spent more time in labs and hospitals and research, environments than I ever did. I mean, I spent more time in zoos visiting with my kids than anything related to that. So it's very different, that like you say, that sense of work to that sense of what originally started us off doing YouTube channels. And for me, I think it's important to keep that. I want to keep doing things I want to do, and I try to do the, like you say, the informational stuff in a way that I want to do. Yeah. So the paint mixing stuff, I guess, is part of that. Recently, it's informational, it's helpful to people, but it's stuff I want to do. I'm interested in it. It's the science thing as well. I think they're really good products. The ICM paints, which are obviously the raw materials made in Spain from companies that we all know already. Okay, so. So yeah, it's a difficult one sometimes, I think, to balance. So do you think you're going to plan to do more of the, let's call it the work stuff, the businessy side?
I will, because that generates an income that's a steady show. And sometimes it's really interesting, like doing the range releases, going through the range and trying to think why are they doing that? Why are they going down that road? Why are they not doing these things and these things? Like with ICM, for example, we all know the problems they're going through at the moment. But you look at their range and you think, you're doing a lot of new planes, not very many new vehicles. And you start thinking to yourself, well, is it maybe because like the vehicle designers are now on the front line defending their country, and maybe the plane designers are in their late 40s and maybe are exempt from service at the moment. So that's where their skill set is. It could be something as simple as that, rather than trying to desperately sort of double think their marketplace. The same with people like Mini Art and people, almost everyone you look at now. You just bring what's there. Do we think that's a good idea? Does it look good from what we've seen of it? Or if they share CADs or whatever, does it look reasonably good? Does it build on the reputation they've just made? Like Mini Art doing the Focke-Wulf 190D next year, their P47 is really nice. So the Focke-Wulf 190D probably is really nice too. So that's something really exciting to look forward to. There's bits and pieces.
I just had my dinner delivered.
Very good.
It doesn't
Wow.
normally happen,
Well,
you know.
the Deliveroo is really personal where you live, man.
I should say, you know, that I shouldn't have said anything. I should have said that happens all the time. I've just got a very well trained. That's completely untrue. You know?
Yeah.
Normally, it would happen the other way around. You know.
Yeah.
Actually, Julian made a good comment here. I think the difference with a catalog video on YouTube is we get an unbiased view of the range.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, we try to be as unbiased
yeah,
as we can be.
and I think that's a good. It's a good comment, right? Because,
Mm.
and I think this holds for YouTube generally. Actually, if you look at the rise of, I watch a lot of film and current events kind of commentators on YouTube.
Mm.
I used to watch a lot of and listen to a lot of BBC because I was traveling a lot of BBC News.
Mhm.
BBC News was held up worldwide as a sort of bastion of independent journalism. Sadly, that's no longer the case.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of mainstream media, as it's referred to, is shown to be extremely biased.
Mm.
Whereas anybody can make a YouTube video, so you can get, you know, pretty unbiased views from basically normal people
Mm.
who are informed,
Mm.
which is what journalism used to be. So,
Or at least on YouTube, you can get a selection,
exactly, yeah,
so you can make the comparison rather than being spoon-fed one or two opinions.
yeah, absolutely. And obviously, big corporations do have, well, they're linked in to certain things. The BBC obviously is quite heavily linked into the government because of
Mhm.
funding. The
Mm.
BBC, you know, the license fee,
Yeah.
and that obviously has over the years gradually had more and more of an impact. So, yeah, for me, and I think, thank you, Julian, for, you know, inferring that we're independent.
Mhm.
I know, you know, like yourself, Gary, I try to be as independent as possible. You'll have seen I've been critical of Revell. I've been critical of airfix. I've been, you know, I've tried to show, you know, even the ICM, the improving ICM video. Again, I always take that view. When I was a parent governor and later chair of governors at my kids' school, we were always taught that you should play the role of the critical friend
Mm.
in the same way as taught in business. You know, when you sit in a meeting, it's not your job to say yes, sir, to whoever's hosting it. It's, is this a good idea, and really critique it. And it's like, because internally you're going to be softer than the public.
Yeah.
That's the general view, right? So your job when you sit in those meetings is not to be soft, is to really go at it hard, so that you get all the cracks, so that you get all the stuff. You know, it's like editing in films. You're there to spot all the errors so that your audience don't, so that you get a nice contiguous film. And I've always approached it in that way. You know, I want airfix to succeed, so I don't want it to do stupid stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want its QC to be bad. I don't want them to do, you know, bad releases or, you know, all those things. Same with Revell. I would love Revell to get their act together. With Luke joining, they seem to be making some progress in that regard. They've delayed stuff to make it right. That's all great for us, right, as modelers.
Yep.
And if you and I and, you know, other YouTubers, you know, Moss, John Alec, and all the rest have had, you know, a small piece of influence in making that happen, I see that as a really good thing.
Totally.
And, you know, the fact that we can be critical is, you know, because we're not paid by airfix, we're not paid by, you know, even if they send us a review kit, like the Sea King, you know, they gave me the Sea King. I think it's a great kit, but it was short shot, and I showed that, you know, because that was my experience of it. I'm not going to cover that up for them, or, you know, they offered to give me a new sprue for it. It's like, well, I've already made it now. I've already done the video showing it, so there's no point in that, you know. And, you know, if your QC was good, that wouldn't have happened. So,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. No, you have to speak truth unto power, as they'd say. You know, and there's also, to be honest, if you or I or any of the rest of us just sit there and go, "Yay, airfix is great, airfix is great," nothing. No, it's never their fault. Airfix is wonderful. They always make the right decisions. It's everyone else's fault. No one's going to watch our damn channel.
No,
because they're just going to think, well, if everyone would hear that, I'll watch airfix's channel. Thank you very much. It's better produced, and you know,
well, sometimes,
yeah, it's, well, the camera works nice, but other than that, you know, why would you? also, you don't want someone who's always saying airfix is rubbish, airfix is rubbish, airfix is rubbish. You say B24 Liberator. Well, okay, yeah, but airfix is rubbish, airfix is rubbish. You think you've got to balance it, and you've got to be honest. If you're not honest,
I
our
think
viewers
people
will detect it straight away, and they'll just say, "Thank you very much, unsubscribe, go watch something else."
And I think that's generally true. Generally, people are pretty good at smelling bullshit. And you can tell if someone's genuine most of the time, I think. I mean, yes, there are some con artists out there who are very good at it. I don't think they'd be making YouTube channels, to be honest. Maybe they would, but I mean, if you look at Moss, Moss is a self-confessed airfix fan, but he still criticizes airfix.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because you're a fan of something, you're a fan of it, for whatever reasons, doesn't mean that you can't be, independent in your view of them and your thought of them. I mean, you and I think, both love ICM, the quality of the stuff, the kind of subjects they produce. But I'm quite happy to say where they're not doing so well, and I mentioned it in my video. Things like their characterization, their suggested paints. I think it is. Don't think I have it here, but some of them, one is chocolate chipping that they suggest for Dark Earth. It's nothing like Dark Earth.
That's right.
It's about as close as Humbrol 30 is to dark green.
Yeah.
So it's like they're great paints, but don't follow their suggestions to which colors to use.
Yeah.
So just stuff like that. I think the difference is when you see a company ignores advice or when you see a company take advice. ICM have been very open about taking on feedback from the likes of us, the likes of the community, suggestions, all that kind of stuff. Same with airfix. Airfix realized some of their issues, like QC stuff. They work within the Hornby framework, so they're a little bit limited. Revell, again, Luke joining them, he said, yep, they freely admit they know what some of the issues are. They hear it a lot. They're trying to work on it. I think that's all you can ask of a company is that they admit where you are having some issues. Because anybody can get, the company line and just batten down the hatch and say, no, it's all fine. Our boxes are great. People love our end opening boxes. They're the best. That's clearly bullshit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, everybody hates them. Well, not everybody, but I would say the great majority of the community don't like end opening boxes for all the reasons that we know. They're flimsy, they're awkward, you can't store bits in them, bits fall out, all of those things. Same with retailers hate them. Not all retailers, but you can't stack them in the same way that you can stack basically any other manufacturer's boxes.
Yeah.
So I think it's, and I think if you're a channel that does that, you get a reputation for it, and there will always be a market for that because there's always a market for the grumbler. If you want a good, airfix have pissed me off. I bought a kit and it's got warp parts. I want to go and watch a video complaining about airfix. I know where to go. I don't think that's a great advertising.
No, totally not.
Place for your channel to be in.
Yeah.
But I mean, they do exist on YouTube, obviously. But I think the great majority of YouTube modelers, I think, are independent in their thought because they're just modelers like us, So
yeah, totally.
I did see a couple of other comments. Let me just quickly go back to that. So Julian says, Alex, the idea you had for a series on techniques is a good one. I'm looking forward to. That is coming. Unfortunately, much like Gary was saying about not being able to build stuff, with this move being delayed, I do have a garage, which will be the man cave in the new house. Obviously, at the moment, most of my stuff is packed up in boxes. I've had to unpack a whole load of stuff just to be able to operate, on a limited basis.
Wow.
So I've managed to clear some stuff at the shop and actually do some recording today. So, but it's been difficult. I was also waiting for delivery from Airfix, which still hasn't arrived. So I ended up just buying one of the kits I needed because I was one kit short. Bizarrely enough, a Spitfire, I didn't have any of the Mark V Spitfire starter sets because I got a load waiting in a box in a Hornby warehouse. So yeah, it's coming. It's just unfortunately a bit delayed. I was hoping to start the new year with the new series, but it'll be a little bit delayed. Now I am now very far behind on comments, or at least the chat. Okay, John Farrant, question for you, Gary. What about Mystic Meg?
Mystic Mug. Mystic Meg is a proprietary term for someone who used to do the National Lottery predictions.
Indeed.
Mystic Mug is an entirely unconnected and
legally distinct, I think, is the phrase.
Totally. There's no intent at trying to sow confusion or anything like that, misunderstanding in the viewer. Mystic Mug has promised to be at work this weekend, so before January 14th, which is of course the airfix release, Mystic Mug will appear.
Excellent.
For certain, and make some predictions about what airfix are going to be doing this year in a fun and entertaining way. I've come up with an enjoyable, silly way of doing. See, I enjoy doing these videos as information, like doing my awards, and you get dressed up and you put a silly background on the green screen and you present them as if they're the Oscars almost. I enjoy doing that because it's silly, but it makes a point. I actually did love the B26 from ICM more than any other kit I made last year. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I really dislike the fact that the Tiger Moth was included in the Lidl summer offer this year, because it is very plainly not a skill level 1 kit when you have to saw bits out of it. And it's a biplane. I
didn't see it either.
Wants to make a biplane as their first ever kit, where you have to saw bits of the tail off and put different bits in and try and assemble a biplane. And skill level 1, I don't think so. That could have put off so many people from the hobby, potentially new people in the hobby. This is far too difficult. I can't be bothered. Where's my Game Boy or whatever they use these days? You know what I mean? So, but that's always quite fun to do things like that. I enjoyed them. So this weekend that will happen.
Excellent. Yeah, I was hoping that Moss and I could get there's been a year hiatus for Beyond the Box, because we both had personal things going on and a lot of other stuff. And so Mystic Man made some predictions back then with Mostradamus. I did pretty well out of the two of us, I think. So one of the ones that I did actually was the Bristol Super Freighter, which is actually a review on that will be coming very shortly. I was doing that today. You get a lot of plastic in that kit. It's a chunky old beast. There we go.
Here's my one.
Hey.
In Middle East colours, RF nice. Middle East colours. So, yeah, it's a beast of a plane. It's beautiful,
and it goes together pretty well.
Yeah.
I was quite impressed because the tooling on it is pretty old. I was wondering, is it going to be in another Rotodyne stroke Belvedere? But actually fits together really nicely. The transparencies are, the plastic's clear, but you still get those kind of sink marks because it's the tooling,
Yeah, absolutely.
If Airfix were tooling it today, they'd tool it with thinner windows, and obviously CNC polished molds, which would be beautiful. But then you would see that there's absolutely nothing inside it. So it's probably a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right.
Are you doing yours open or closed?
I'm going to have it open.
I opted out of that. I looked at the inside and was just like, no.
I'm not putting much in there. I've put a deck in there, just a deck with some alignment lines, some alignment pegs and things. Nothing much in there, because once you look a little bit down there, it's too dark anyway. It's not a problem.
Yeah. I did think of doing the whole, scratch built interior bit, but then I thought, no, I haven't really done much of that on the channel. All of that is kind of in my past modeling,
Mm.
because I tend to want, and I've said this on my channel intro, I tend to want to try and do stuff out of the box as much as possible for reviews, because that's how people get the kit.
Yeah.
You know, and what can you reasonably expect to make just with the kit contents, and maybe, you know, a bit of filler and some plastic art, but not an entire scratch built interior, you know.
No.
So yeah. Quick comment from Michael Myers. I started my YouTube channel on New Year's Day. Since then, I've only had one day to do my modeling.
Yeah. That's the way it works.
I mean, if you started it on this New Year's Day, that's not a bad ratio.
Yeah.
1 in 9.
8.
Yeah, it won't be that much.
Keep it going.
Taggers has a question. How do you find kit stash videos do, if you have any? As some people might watch these sorts of videos to get unique kit ideas. Have you ever done a kit stash video?
No, I've not. I
No,
might do again when it's in the new place, because currently my stash is up there. It's under the desk here. There's a pile of some boxes there, and there's some stuff next door. So once it's all in one place, I might. But I don't know what people really want to see from those.
No,
I don't know.
I've not done it, well, principally because I don't fancy editing about 300 hours of video if I did one.
Yeah.
But I might. It gives me an idea that I might do something like that for channel members and Patreons. Is because I've got a big stash. Yeah, and I know it's not size that's important. It's what you do with it, and I don't do anything with it. So that's the worst use. But I've got about 20 like 80-liter containers, which currently have kits in. So for patrons to be able to say, okay, you know, box 16, you know, and it's like, okay, I've got, you know, 12 or 20 or whatever kits in that one. Which one do you want to see? And then like have a go over that. That could be interesting. I guess, but I guess I'll see if people want to see that.
Yeah.
But I mean, stash video by itself, I mean, it's, for me doing a stash video, it's like a lot of my kits come from the 90s, or I bought a lot of my kits in the 90s and noughties. So they go back, you know, from the 60s onwards. And an awful lot of them, I mean, have been reissued several times since, but some of them aren't available at all. You know, some of the companies don't even exist anymore. So kind of what's the point of doing a stash video on a kit that nobody can buy? You know, it's kind of almost smacks of elitism. It's like, oh, I've got one of these, but you don't. It's like, why would somebody want to see that? I'm not so sure. But
well, I use them. I actually use them now. I do a joining a live stream on Monday on Bearded Veteran Creates channel, sort of Models, Heroes, guys, and all that gets going. And just spend 2 hours just chatting about model making, and we do stuff at the time. And in that 2 hours, I just build something I want to build, and I don't film it for the channel. I just build something. So I've built the Nemeth parasol, that circular wing, strange thing. Built the 72nd one of those. I've got a 48th one to do because I like that so much. I bought the 148th one as well, which I will do for the channel because I bought it. There's the Newport triplane, you know, the weird sort of complex stagger triplane.
Yeah.
Built one of those. I really enjoy building it. It's weird stuff. Oh, Himeji Castle in Japan.
Oh, right.
Someone sent me a model of Himeji Castle.
I've never seen that before.
1/800th scale.
I only know it really from playing Civ 5. It's one of the wonders that you can build.
There you go. So it's stuff like that I think, and that comes into that category sometimes. You think it's normally something actually Nick has sent for the live stream conundrum. He sent a really weird kit for me for the audience to try and guess what it is, and I end up with the kit at the end of it thinking I can do this, and then it suddenly struck me on Mondays. So it gives me a time on a Monday where I'm building stuff just for me, for the hell of it, because it just gets me to remember it's a hobby and it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I mean?
did again because I didn't have filming stuff and everything. And I've been talking to Games Workshop. Called me about me being a GW franchise shop. We've had a couple, kind of mid preliminary discussions, I would say, at the moment. I've got a call with them. I think it's next week for their offer and see what I want to do. But they sent me, a welcome pack and everything. It has a Redemptor Dreadnought in it that I've built. And again, I just did that because it's like, well, it's not really on brand for the channel, but actually, this is now done in red oxide primer, German World War II. So I'm going to do it as a what if 1946 kind of thing, to bring it into that. And it's just been fun. I haven't filmed it. I'll film the painty bits from now on. The painting, the weathering, all of that bit, which is the kind of modeling aspect, because putting these things together is not difficult. GW kits are very well engineered. But just doing that has been quite, therapeutic, because there's been no pressure. There's no cockpit. I don't have to, hold myself to any standard or anything. So, yeah, I think it is important to do those. I wouldn't call them mojo builds, but kind of, getting back to enjoying builds.
Totally.
So yeah, stash videos? Question mark. I think is the. If we do one, we'll tell you how well it does.
Yeah.
A question about primer from Rubbish Modeler. I like the title. The only one I could get at my local shop in Prague is a Mr. Primer Surfacer 1000 spray can. Done a couple of coats on a 1/72nd scale Hasegawa Daimler armored car. That's going to be tiny. Is that enough? Should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Mr. Primer Surfacer is pretty good stuff. You shouldn't need. I mean, actually, one coat of it is probably enough. It depends how you're applying it. If you're just dusting it on, then yeah, probably a couple of coats. And if you want to rub it down, you can. If not, 1000 is probably okay anyway. But yeah, Hasegawa Daimler armored car. I would have done one at one point, but now probably not.
Yeah.
Too tiny.
Not my thing. I
did the Matchbox. You remember they did? I can't remember what set it was in, but they did the little Daimler Scout car. It's like 1.5 inches long or something. Pretty cute.
Yeah.
I would love Airfix to do a 1/48 scale one of those to go with the ferret. That'd be great. Kind of the progenitor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Simon, no, we haven't moved yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So take a photograph of that, right? And then next time you do one of these, once you have actually moved, just put it as a virtual background, like for the next 3 or 4 months.
That's probably a very good idea. Okay, so I am very behind with the chat. Apologies, guys. Let me just scroll on a bit. Oh, Julian's commented on stash videos. There could be a kit that you'll never get around to, including discontinued ones, but if a viewer really wants, they could pay you for the kit. I'll tell you what the problem for me with my stash is. I have very few, and this is a terrible admission, I have very few unstarted kits. Because when I buy a kit, my full intent is to build it. Now I say very few. It's probably about 35 to 40% of my stash is mint in box. Other ones I have, started in some way, shape or form. So if I'm never going to do it, if somebody really wanted it, I'd just give them it, but yeah, we'll see. I'll explore the stash thing with my channel members and Patreons. So if you're in the chat at the moment, I know some of you are, we'll get on Discord and see what we can do on that front, and we'll test it out behind the scenes. Oh, the little things junkie. This is a good question. What's the point of a stash? I have one knot. you don't have one, right? Because I like to collect kits, but because I buy on a whim and then build them very slowly. Oh, I have one, not because I like to collect kits, because I buy on a whim and then build them very slowly. Sorry, I read that very badly. So yeah, I mean, your stash, Gary, I'm guessing is not as large as mine.
No, this is probably only maybe 200, 250 kits, maybe something like that at the moment. I started getting worried about it when I had about 30, and thinking, oh, this is getting ridiculous. And I now have an insane number. I have to say, and before anyone watching who does this thinks like that, so I'm never doing that again. I do get sent a lot of stuff by my channel members and by my viewers. Kits I may have mentioned in passing. So I don't know, one day I really fancy doing one of those, and then 3 days later one appears. I have some very, very generous people, so I'm not going to get rid of those. There is just such a lot that I've been sent, and also I want to build it all. I actually do want to build most of the things that are here. The only things that I'm not likely to build are things that I've done for box reviews and like content reviews, and I'm thinking, do you know what? I'm never going to get around to actually building this. And it happens with ICM. They get a monthly email from them saying, this is what we're releasing next month. What would you like? And several times I said, look, I'm happy to do a box review. I'll never, ever build this. So if you don't want to send it, that's fine. Oh, no, I'll send it anyway. Do what you like with it once it's done. So a lot of the time they go to Models for Heroes or someone like that, or someone will say, I really, really want, okay, well, send us the postage. I'll send it to you. But
yeah, I actually have exactly the same thing.
I'm not going to give it away again. Basically, I will build them eventually.
Actually, I had the same thing with ICM. I had the oh god, what was the set they did with the Turkish and British?
Oh, the Gallipoli one.
Gallipoli, yeah. So, I mean, really, really good. I haven't put that. I haven't even put the video out yet. I've got it all filmed and stuff. But I thought I'd love to build it, but I just don't know when I'm going to get a chance. And I got a really good customer at the shop who used to paint figures professionally. So I was just like, he bought a load of stuff, and I was just like, do you know what? Have you ever tried ICM? And he hadn't. I was like, here you go, try those.
Yeah.
Like he used to do, because he said he hadn't painted figures for a while. I was like, there you go, try those. Knock yourself out with those, because I mean, the ICM I think are some of the best figures around.
Totally.
So,
totally.
So yeah, it's you like to feel that they're actually going to a good use. Not just to be. They're no good sitting in a shelf somewhere in my office or whatever. So. A related question,
but stash is not intentional. It's not an intention. It's just something that happens and just grows.
Absolutely.
And there's very little we can do about it, sadly.
I mean, just before we get to this question, so my stash really evolved from. I bought kits. So I've been in commercial, like in sales and sales leadership for most of my career, and that pays pretty well. Or paid pretty well, because I don't really do that now. So even with having a family, I bought kits when I could, knowing that I might not always have that income. So for me, it was almost like a retirement fund, of not to sell to retirement, but to do in my later years when I had more time, because I was cash rich, time poor. Now I'm time. Well, not really rich, but time less poor, more poor. So, which I'm not sure is a great progress, but it's a progress I've made, unfortunately. But that's how my stash kind of has come up, because I bought the kits. Again, I always have a view of what I want to do with the kit when I buy it, or something. There's some seed in my mind.
Yeah.
I never just buy stuff just like, oh, I'll buy one of those and I'll buy one for posterity or something. I always have some sort of idea, and that's changed over the years. And obviously with YouTube, it's changed again. But it has accumulated because of that.
Yeah.
So, related question from Oliver Joburg, I'm guessing is how you say it. I'm still not great at Scandinavian accents, so I think that is. Do either of you have a Scalemates or something similar account for stash organizing? It would be interesting to have a look at what you have on a website like that. Do you use Scalemates for stash management?
No, I do have an account at Scalemates, and I think I've probably put 20 kits on there, so not even one, like 10% of what I have. I actually keep forgetting to do anything to do with it. I use Scalemates to find out what's coming, what's new, and stuff like that. I just have neglected that side of it very, very severely. So I do have an account, but it's just really not indicative of what I've got sitting around.
Yeah, I do have a Scalemates stash. So when I actually retrieved my stash, because it wasn't my ex's, I thought, well, I'll use this opportunity, and this was a couple of years ago now, after I'd started the channel, but let's say not very long. And I thought I'll use this opportunity to actually catalog all of what I have, reorganize it, obviously see what I want to then build. So I put it all on Scalemates then. I haven't maintained it well since then. I have accumulated some kits then, but I haven't really bought kits unless they're specifically for something on the channel. Since then, I've accumulated a lot of kits, like you, Gary. You know, people send you stuff, and that hasn't necessarily gone to Scalemates. Well, it hasn't, and it's a time thing, you know, more than anything. You know, I would love to have a channel big enough that I could employ somebody to do all the admin stuff to allow that kind of thing. Unfortunately, it's just me, like yourself,
I'd
Gary.
love an editor. I would love a video editor.
I see. I wouldn't. I'm a control freak. I couldn't let go of the video editing, and I enjoy it. Actually, it's part of the process I do enjoy, unless I have to do it, in which case I hate it.
But you know, I look at it. Oh no, I've got to do that. Oh my goodness, no! It takes up so much time. It takes up so much of my day. But anyway, there we go. It is what it is. It's part of what we do. So there's so many worse things in the world we should be doing.
Yes. So Martin, so I have a stash, and then I have stock. They are separate. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I will I'll take something out. So I'll order, you know, a bunch of stuff from airfix, and there'll be like 3 kits in there, say, that I'll use for the channel. So I'll take those out of stock into you know, my own personal stash. But yeah, the shop stock is not stash. Purely from an economic point of view, I'd be bankrupt very, very quickly if I did that. It is scary though, looking at the stock level, because so I use Shopify, so it does the website, it does all of the stock management as well. It sometimes goes wrong, which means you end up selling stuff that you don't have, which is a real pain because you have to disappoint people and you've got to sort it all out.
Yeah.
But generally it works, and it tells you, you know, the value of stock you have in different, like A, B, and C, depending on how quickly it sells, you know, and that's scary. When you look at a number, you're just like, oh my God, it's a 5-figure number. It's like, that's insane. Because of course you accumulate stock, you don't buy it all in one go. So yeah, that's definitely not my stash. I need to sell it. No worries, John. Whenever you are able to pop in, it will be good to see you. Okay. Little things, Chunky. Yes, ICM make great plastic figures. They do indeed. And they're all hand sculpted. They're not digitally sculpted, which is astonishing, actually. In again, I'll refer to Games Workshop. All of their sculpting is digital now. So I have a good friend who actually works at Forge World. He worked there for about 14 years, took a break, and then he's gone back. I saw him at Telford. And he was their last physical sculptor when he left. And now he's gone back. So I guess he's their only physical sculptor. Scrolling down, see if we've got any other questions. Off-duty engineer. So again, guys, if you could put question in capitals or QQQ, just so we can spot them. It's difficult otherwise. Fortunately, I got to the end of the chat, so I can see this one. I use DaVinci Resolve. So DaVinci Resolve is a free film quality. It's used by film companies to edit their stuff. Obviously, there are paid options that do super advanced stuff, but the basic free version will do everything you need in YouTube and more. It's got quite a steep learning curve, but the actual stuff that you need for YouTube, the kind of basic stuff, is actually quite easy to use. And there's a load of YouTube videos on DaVinci, which is how I learned how to use it. It's quite intuitive. I mean, yes, some of the, you can do things like, what is it? Object tracking blur, for instance. So if you want to blur out somebody's face and they're moving around the screen, it's very easy to do. You just have to know how to do it. But again, there's YouTube videos on that. Once you know how to do it, you know how to do it. You know, talk about nodes and all this kind of stuff. So DaVinci is the first one I used. I don't think I'll ever change from it. It's really good. Give it a go. But there are a lot of editors which, you know, people use that are very good. What about you, Gary? What do you use?
When I first started, it was iMovie because I used Macintoshes. That was perfectly serviceable. Currently using one called Filmora, which is okay. I keep refusing the updates to it because I don't see any point, and it works. But I have loaded DaVinci into my machines. It's just a case again of taking it. I think when I go on holiday in August, when we go to Albania, it's like 10 days of proper doing nothing, apart from Monday Matters, maybe. So I think whilst my dear wife is out on the beach sunning herself, I'll be trying to learn DaVinci Resolve because it does look just so good, just so strong. But as you say, you know, it's a bit like Photoshop. You can learn to do Photoshop at most people's level relatively easily. There's things like Affinity, which is essentially very, very low cost, and you don't have to buy a license every year, which does things slightly differently. Once you know those slightly differently things, it's very easy to do what the 99% of people ever want to do with imaging. So, yeah, why not? Why not do something like that?
Yeah. I mean, Resolve is it's not hard. I think it's one of those things. If you know, it's a bit like, and I get into this in my introductory series. It's a bit like kit instructions. If you get into the mindset of who is writing them, they're quite easy to follow. If you're not in that mindset, they can be quite difficult. I mean, what are the worst instructions you've ever come across, Gary?
But the worst instructions I've actually ever come across were for a Mr. Craft Sea Harrier, because the instructions actually didn't relate to the plastic that was actually in the box. The box contained like 30 parts, and the instructions confidently claimed there were 64, and had all sorts of things like the front fan of the engine, which the kit doesn't have, even though the decal sheet has the numbers for each fan blade. And it was a truly appalling thing. That was the worst instructions, purely because they lied. Because it essentially lied about what you had in the box.
I've not yet had the bravery to do a Mr. Craft kit.
But
the worst I found are kind of general, kind of, if you want to say, mainstream manufacturers at the moment are border models.
I've not made one of the kits yet.
So the 1/35th scale Kate, I'm doing a buddy build with John, and the plastic is phenomenal. I mean, it just the level of detail in the kit. It's got full interior on this Kate. It's beautiful. the instructions, the first thing it has you build is the engine. And you've got the individual cylinder heads, and they all have separate pieces that go on the end.
Mhm.
And the reason, which would be useful to know, even if you skip ahead, you don't really get that.
Mm.
The reason is because the actual frame for the cowlings sits on those, and
Okay.
certain points on them. So, because I was like, why do they have different numbers for these? Because they all look the same.
Mhm.
Some of them have a little cutout, and it's like, right, okay. You do it. I was very careful knowing that. It's like, okay, so these go on these. So followed it exactly, and it's wrong.
Oh,
The
Jesus.
instructions are just wrong. If you do, and it's because I took it apart and thought I must
Oh.
be an idiot. I must have done
no.
it wrong, you know. And it's like, no, I've got it all right.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't go. You know, it's just like you imagine you got the holes for the brackets are here, and it gets you to do them like here. So it's like you're trying to put it on, and it's just like, but this doesn't fit. It's like, so you're going backwards and forwards. I must have rebuilt that engine like 4 times. And it's just like, you know, when you get into the stage, it's just like, if I do it anymore, I'm going to destroy any detail on it. So it's just like, I just ignored the instructions and used the framing and then put it together, and it worked. And it's just like, so the instructions actively prevent you making the model the exact opposite of their function. And you just think, so I emailed John and said, you know, what have you done? He started with the cockpit. I'm just like, right, well, when you get to the engine, I'm just like, be really, really careful. Even knowing that, he still had a problem with it. Like, so yeah, it's border models, and I've heard that from other people. I mean, it's like, yeah, they have. The instruction booklet looks beautiful, and it's got some sheets at the beginning which have period photos and a bit of discussion. You think this is great, but the actual content of the instructions is just like, it's like somebody was told how to build the kit, but never seen the plastic,
Right.
and just, you know, made it up.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And what you really need is border models to make their models and then ship them to ICM, then to do video instructions of them. That would be great.
Definitely. But the ones that, not that they're bad, and I don't want to get into a bashing, but most releases I've had from airfix have had a typo in them somewhere. Their proofreading has been very poor in recent years, I've found. And every time I see it, I get in touch with, I send it to Dale and say, dude, look, I'm actually quite cheap and I can do this. I used to do this stuff for a living. I'm actually really reasonable. All you have to do is send me a PDF file. I'll go through it, make sure you spell everything correctly, make sure you haven't made any glaring errors, make sure you've actually numbered the paints and put a name underneath them, spell things correctly. And, you know, if you're really lucky, I might even show you which. I was making the Shannon class lifeboat the other day. I mean, how many? I don't know how many pieces that is. 40 pieces, 30 pieces. One piece is missing from the instruction sheet. It's a bit like the Gambit set. Again, it's a starter set, so people coming to the hobby are now thinking, well, where does A26 or whatever go? And it appears in
it's not really a starter
it's
kit,
like an anchor or something like that. It's nothing major, but again, it's slack. If you see what I mean, it's not a good image when modelling is all about accuracy and all the rest of it. That, you know, you spell the name of an airbase wrong, and it's not like some tiny little airbase. It'd be something like Cottesmore has been spelled incorrectly, or things like that. And it's just not good proofreading that annoys me.
I think with I mean, the Shannon class, I think Moss has said this as well, you know, it's not really a starter kit. You know, it's more like a gift set. And I know quite a few people who have said the fit of like the hull, not the hull, the like deck to the hull can be, I think that may be a QC thing as well.
Yeah. It was what I noticed actually when we've been building it was, because I have this, I try and remember I should dry fit everything. I try and remember. Sometimes I get so gung-ho about things, I actually just follow the instructions, which is a bad move. The wheelhouse part, it's like a U-shaped cross section, and the base of it's spread out. So if you then glue in all the back end of it,
I think that was
fit that. That's what's wrong. If you put it vaguely in place, put it into the deck so that those sides close up, then all the bits fit properly. Bit of glue around there. But of course, we're talking about using extra thin glue and all that. We're not talking about using the rubbish that airfix actually include with the kit. That stupid tube of glue, which is going to ruin it.
It is great glue for making sprue goo.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've got about 30 bloody tubes of the stuff here waiting for me to get round to it.
I'll tell you what,
but it's rubbish.
I've got an older cement than this. I don't know if you've seen this.
Oh, nice. Dear God.
Yeah, it came in. What was it? I think it was an old Revell Mayflower.
Sure, it wasn't actually in a real P51 from the war.
It's it's so old that it's actually, because obviously these are sealed and then they're crimped. It's still sealed at the end, but it's still quite thin. I think it's lost quite a lot of the actual solvent from evaporation just through the tiny. That's decades of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
yeah, I wish they'd get their act together on a bit of again. It's quality control. I think they're printed in Italy or somewhere like that by a subcontractor. They're not done. Once they just give them a brief, they give them the information, they come back, but then no one's actually double checking it well enough, I don't think. But it's not the end of the world. But sometimes it's annoying, like if there's a paint number missing and you're trying to make a kit.
Yeah, I think it's more important on a
hobby is going to be really
kit, isn't it? Because
yeah,
starter kit, you can't assume that anybody has the knowledge to know any better.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Julian makes this point. I think it was the XP70 you did where the wing was upside down in instructions.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I struggled for quite a while. It's the old AMT molding, but it was an Italieri production of it. So, which was good because it was Italieri plastic, which was it's a lot softer than the old AMT horrible white brittle stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and it's a big piece. The wing is in two pieces, like this big. So you're kind of dealing with this, and there's no positive fit. There's some tabs which kind of hold it together like that. There's no actual connection. There's just these overlapping tabs. So it sort of wants to do this while you're trying to affix it to the fuselage. I just couldn't get the damn thing to go. It's like looking at it, and then I realized that how it was shown in the instructions was actually not. If you turn the wing upside down, that's where the fuselage went. But it's not what it indicates on the instructions at all. So again, the instructions actively trying to stop you making the kit.
Inspiring.
Yeah. And then you need a whole shed load of glue to hold it together because the thing is massive. Experience with border kits is mixed. They look great on the sprues. Building them is another matter altogether. And just the instructions. Do I have it? Yeah. I've heard it a lot about border model kits since then, not before. It's only when you have a problem, isn't it? You think, is this common or is it just me? And then you look and it's like, no, everybody thinks the same thing. So, here we go. Just to reiterate what you're saying, Gary. Currently building the 2024 release of the Walrus, and there's an error in the paint call out in one stage. Yeah. I mean, for me, again, I did the painting by numbers video, which I think you take a big grain of salt and add it to what manufacturers tell you. I think using your own brain in modeling and thinking about it is a skill you develop. It's like you have to trust the manufacturer to a point, and then it's a partnership.
Yeah.
On that note, let me welcome in John Alec.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Alex. Hi, Gary.
How you doing, dude? Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, thank you. Just wrapping up some work. Yeah.
Excellent.
The dog is snoozing behind me. Yeah.
Excellent.
So, John, tell me, what are your plans for the channel? You've already got videos out, so build videos.
My God. Yeah, I kind of took a kind of a siesta from making video. I got burned out, but But I am a bit rejuvenated now at the New Year's, getting some videos out. I've got a lot of content. I just have to kind of edit it. But I'm looking forward to this year. I've got good vibes. I've got positive feelings about the bench. I think just taking a couple months off from putting content out, it refreshed me. Yeah.
Because I saw you did the oh god, what is it?
Oh, the Eagle.
The Eagle. That's it. And I saw you with the springs when you made your own springs and the coils, and I'm just like, okay, he's going all out for this one.
Yeah, that's the plan. Honestly, it was really a fluke. The plastic, it's my first Vespid kit, and the seam lines are minimal. The plastic is sufficiently dense. Cleanup is good. The indexing is absolutely fantastic. The instructions are great, but those strings or springs. I'm sorry. Even just taking them off the off the gates, they just fell apart. So you had no choice.
Forcing you to scratch build. They look great though.
Thank you.
I'm actually looking at. I've got a commission that I took last year, and I said, look, there's no chance of this being done before January, and I got to get back to the guy saying, look, there's going to be at least a 6-week delay on this because of all the stuff. And there's 4 1/43 scale cars, right? Which you think, well, that's not much, but these are forget the company. I've got them downstairs. I'll try and get one in a bit. But they're mixed media. They're mostly resin. There's some etched. There's like I don't know. The plastic that you use in packaging, that kind of vacuum type plastic. It's just like a whole nother level, and it's just like I looked at one today and I'm like, holy shit, this is a lot. When you think, okay, you just have to think I'm being paid for this. I don't have to enjoy it.
Why did I agree? Why did they say yes?
Yeah, well, I should have asked for more. But yeah, I mean, interesting. It's a Maserati. I've got 2 identical ones. The cars he's owned before. 2 Maseratis. I mean, the kits are phenomenal. I mean, they're expensive. They're like, I think like 35 euros or so, $35, £5 a piece for for a model which is this big, like a dinky car. But they have, to give you an idea, the wheels, which are maybe 10 millimeters, like 3/8 of an inch in diameter. There's the hub, a separate rubber tire, which is about 1 millimeter thick, with tread and everything. So they're just the dishes, and then inside that you put the brake disc. The brake caliper, the brake disc, which is, these are all in resin. The brake disc, which is photo etch, and then on top of that the resin spokes of the alloy, and it's just like for every single one. I'm like, because where the wheels, there's just this bag of bits, and I'm just like, oh shit. Yeah. So I've got that to look forward to, and it's not 3D printed. This is a cast resin kit. Man. So yeah.
Well,
it's got windscreen wipers which are photo etch. It's like, oh my god. So yeah, interesting. It's going to be an interesting start to the year for commissions. So what have you got planned for your channel then for 2025, John? Anything different or?
I might try to do a ship at some point. I think that's probably...
That's a very non-committal might.
Yes. I might do a ship. I've got the USS Indianapolis, and I've had it for a couple of years, maybe 3 years now. And, so it's in there because it's in my little closet because it's so big, but I think it keeps like calling my name. But
that's the Academy one.
Just getting more content out. probably a little less cars. I don't think that there's that much traffic on the channel. I think folks like military stuff, right? And so I've got a couple planes going. I've got the Kate build that's going on with you, and then I've got a couple of armor builds. But I think the big difference is just getting some more content out. Yeah. And no, Gary and I did not call each other today to coordinate what.
Yeah, I didn't get the memo.
Yeah. You missed the memo there, Alec.
I did.
No, I like your jumpers there. Yeah, it's good.
Andy says, I was given a bulldog for Christmas. Are there any errors in that kit? Well, I don't know if you've built it, Gary, but I know, John, you've built the airfix bulldog, haven't you?
I just did. I wouldn't say there's any errors in it. There's unnecessary complexity, let's say. There's these, I don't know what they're called, but there's these, they almost look like shoehorns, and they go around they go on the cowling, and they're behind the cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
And once you put them on, they look identical, but every piece has a different number, and the indexing is different. I just don't get it. That was complicated. Yeah.
You should have built a version, because not all of them had those. You should have built a version that didn't have them.
Interesting. Yeah.
I haven't built the bulldog. I intended to, and I still might.
It's a nice kid.
But yeah, it's a biplane at the end of the day, and that means rigging. And it's just like, it's not that I'm afraid of rigging. I don't really have a problem, but it's an extra step. It's kind of, you think you've finished and you haven't.
Yeah.
You've done the decals, you've done the final painting and varnishing and everything, and now you're still not finished. So it's like, yeah, you could still fuck it up.
What are you guys looking forward to most building this year?
Oh,
that's my question for you guys.
I think one of the top ones is the ICM 48 scale Hampton.
Nice.
That one's nice. Right up there. I'm looking forward to the Licensor as well. That's coming, and if a lot of people have pre-ordered the Licensor from my shop, I believe they are coming on the release date. Well, they're shipping, or they should ship on the 14th, on the release day. Airfix's range release day is when Dale said that they should be available. So hopefully they'll get to me by the end of what is it? It'll be next week. So those will go out, because there's a lot of excitement about that kit. I think everybody said this. It fits right into Airfix's wheelhouse. It's kind of slightly unusual, unsung British aircraft that's been underrepresented in the modeling kind of fraternity in the past, which is kind of bang on for Airfix. So I think it's one of those things that people didn't really think about, but when it came, it was like, oh yeah, Oh, there's a question. Is it Hampton or Hamden? It's Hampton, isn't it?
It's Hampton with a P, but it's pronounced without the P because it's British, and we do strange stuff like that.
Depends where you come from in the UK. It could be Hamden.
Hamden, yeah.
Andy Page Hamden.
Yeah.
In it.
Go blimey, governor.
Oh blimey, governor! It's Hamden.
You should do it.
Bless you.
Like a Scouser accent or something. Yeah. How about you, Gary? What do you look
We make it up as we go along.
Yeah. What I'm hoping I can do this year, I'm really desperate to try and get the time to do it, and it's going to take a long time, is I have a 1/400th scale aircraft carrier from Hella, the Aramosh kit. And the Aramosh started life as HMS Colossus. It was the lead of the Colossus class light fleet carrier, one of which was HMS Triumph, which was my father's aircraft carrier. So I'm going to build it as HMS Triumph. I've done it once before, but just after I picked up the whole modeling thing again, and I don't like it. So I'm going to build another one. There's tons of photo etch for it. Also, in the meantime, things like the quads, half-inch guns, the pom-poms and things like that, they came as photo etch originally. Now, of course, they're 3D printed, and they are so much nicer and so much better, so much easier to make. I can get planes for it. The only thing I can't get for it is a walrus. So I might see about somehow getting a 1/400th scale walrus for the deck. But other than that, everything you can get.
I'm sure, Gary, that there will be an STL file.
Oh yeah. Well,
in which
part of the north wing being built is I'm going to get a 3D printer.
I was going to say, well, I can print you a walrus. That's not a 1/400th walrus is about like 2 mils of resin.
30-minute print, yeah.
So that's pretty much what I'd really like to do this year, is a tribute to my dad and his service in the Navy, or Fleet Air Arm, with his carrier as it appeared, as it arrived in just off of Sasebo on the Philippines, on its way to Korea in 1949. There's a very beautiful photograph in the archives of the US Navy. They took a really beautiful photograph of the ship, and you can get it at like sort of 8,000 pixel resolution, and it's still, you can't see the grain in the picture. It's probably shot on a 5x4 plate camera or something like that.
Wow.
You know, a press plate camera. So you can see all the detail. You can see some of the planes haven't yet been painted in Far East camouflage. So most of the body is extra dark sea grey rather than in sky, which they did for the Far East eventually. There's so much detail in there. It's a beautiful photo, and also put it into a sea diorama. Actually, put it on water.
Oh, sweet!
Acrylic water rather than as a
I wish you all the best with that, Gary, because you've mentioned several things there that are red flags for me. It's a Hella 1/400th scale ship.
Yeah.
And then once you built it, you're going to put it in resin. That's there's a lot of danger in all of those pieces.
Yeah. Absolutely. With
tons of for you.
Yeah. With the PE, right. Yeah.
And I also have to paint a Union flag across the width of the flight deck.
Oh my God.
Because they did that in 1949. They actually, for a few days, because there was some confusion over which carriers were there. There's only 2 there, but they kept confusing which ones to land on, and there were some near misses. So one day some wag decided it'd be a great idea to paint a Union flag the whole width of the deck.
What you need to do is get like a little 1/400th scale figure, you know, like a 2mm figure.
Yeah, paint it.
Yeah, and just do like the very start of it.
Yeah.
A little bit of blue. He's like, he's the one painting it.
Like I did with my B-26, I had converted one of the ground crew figures with a paintbrush. So I've got him on top of the wing painting one of the invasion stripes on.
Excellent.
Very nice.
So the other things I'm looking forward to a lot, actually, because again,
cool.
Kind of one of the things I said to everybody is that if I hit 25k subs, I would do 25 kits for 2025. So kind of again asking channel members and patrons what those should be. And they won't be the only kits that I build, so I should easily be able to hit the number. But kind of, you know, actual builds rather than just necessarily review things.
Yeah.
So one is the 1/24th scale Typhoon, the airfix Typhoon. I've got one of those.
Nice.
So I've had it for just over a year. I got it from the Oval show in 2023, and I haven't done anything with that. So I think that would be, you know, I really enjoyed the Spitfire. I like the Typhoon. It's, you know, a big, chunky, kind of aggressive looking thing. So that'll be something I'm looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to the ICM 148 scale HS 129 as well. It's an aircraft I've always liked.
Right.
You know, strange triangular cross section fuselage with no room. You know, so that they put some of the engine like gauges on the actual engines, because there weren't room in the cockpit. So you had to, you know, if you wanted to see the oil pressure on your port engine, you just looked out at the port engine. Hopefully you could see the dial.
That's
insane.
crazy.
Brilliant.
Well, I guess, you know, you can't do anything about it if it's low, right? You just know.
And then a big gun underneath it as well.
Yeah.
Just to add for the fun.
Well, the interesting thing about that aircraft as well is most pilots who were shot down in it chose to crash land rather than bail out because it was so well armored and protected that they felt they had a better chance crash landing it in a field. It was difficult to get out of, so they thought they had a better chance crash landing it than trying to get out of the cockpit. Again, insane, but and some more armor. I didn't build much armor last year, so I'm looking forward to getting a bit more armor out. And another kit that I'd really like to get is which I will have to buy, is the new Italieri Lancia Stratos.
Oh, nice! Yeah,
which looks gorgeous. It's quite expensive. I think it's 1/12 scale.
Oh wow!
I've always liked the Stratos, right? Big cheese wedge in its rally colours. The decal sheet is huge. You know, all the Italian Alitalia decals.
Sponsors.
So
yeah.
That's what I'm looking forward to getting. But I mean, there will be other kits as well we don't know about, right? We don't know what Airfix is going to release. You know, 1/48 scale Jaguar, fingers crossed.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
I am going to make an Airfix Jaguar, a 1/48 scale Jaguar. I have one. It's a current tooling, current production by Hella. Right. So Hella do the 1/48 scale Jaguar. I think it's the GR version. But it's originally an Airfix tooling. I think it's from 1984 or something. Yeah. And it obviously became part of Hella in the divorce when Hallmark cards went belly up. So they retained through ill or legitimate means the tools and currently produce it. So I've actually got some in the shop because when I got them and got them in and then looked at it and looked at its provenance. It's like, oh, this was originally Airfix. It's like, okay, well, if Airfix do a 1/48 scale Jaguar, that'll be a good comparison between the old and new. What 30 years or 40 years of progression will do for that. So come on, Airfix, give us a 1/48 scale Jaguar, otherwise I can't make that video. Yeah. That actually leads us. Sorry. Go to Oliver's question. Any ideas what's coming on Airfix's release day? Personally wishing for a 1/48 scale Jaguar.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Now, I would say, Oliver, any ideas? We have plenty of ideas. We don't know anything. We don't have any inside knowledge, but we can all speculate, right? And we do regularly. Yeah. I think a 1/48 scale Jaguar, I thought they would probably do one last year. I think it's still potentially on the cards. It's kind of, it's prime for it, right? It's prime for somebody to do one. And Airfix will be the obvious people to do it. And I think maybe with ICM doing the Hampden, maybe that's pushed them a little bit because that was kind of, I mean, they also did the Beaufort, right? As another aside, I keep doing asides, I always do. ICM's new boxing of the Beaufort, the torpedo bomber, the Coastal Command one. I love that scheme. So I want to do one.
Sweet.
The previous torpedo bomber one, I did in that scheme. I got the aftermarket for it because it's a scheme I just think that suits so many planes. The only thing, of course, I didn't have were the ADF, the Yagi aerials underneath. Yeah. So this is a chance to build one properly because it looks beautiful. It just looks, and also if you're into that sort of thing, having a white fuselage on an aircraft that operated at low level over salt water and was based on the coast, you can go to weathering that. So much fun.
Yeah.
But but it's also a beautiful kit to make.
It is.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, and I think the Hampton, they're releasing 2.
They're doing a torpedo bomber of that as well.
Nice.
And at the risk of sounding like an ICM fanboy, and I am a big fan of ICM because of what they're doing, not because they send kits to me or I like them or anything. They just do really good stuff at the moment. Their box art for those releases looks phenomenal.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. The Hampton, the Bomber Command, the early war Bomber Command one. I mean, you look at that and you think that could be a photo.
They're pieces of art. Yeah.
Yeah, they really are. I think they should just sell the prints. I think they could. They could do that, right?
Speaking of ICM, Alex, really quick, I have never done a helicopter, and I'm looking forward to doing that ICM Black Hawk Special Operations Command. Once from you, once that comes in and the Lysander's in and that's in, then we'll do that. But I've never done one of those before, and I'm sold. That just looks so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that. I've said this before. It has that kind of menacing aspect. I mean, for a helicopter, helicopters to me generally don't look that aggressive until you get to things like the Apache, and the UH-60 is a transport helicopter, and yet in that special operations like black, and it's kind of squat with the big bits that they add onto it, it looks kind of aggressive, and so I'm, as people know, I'm not a big helicopter guy, but I'm really looking forward to that.
Me too.
And actually, ICM's January releases, which you've probably seen, Gary, as well. They got 2 more versions of it. They've got the standard military transport helicopter, and also one that's used by I think it's the intelligence services of the Ukraine.
That's right,
which is in a blue and yellow camouflage.
That's one I'll be making.
3 kits look completely different. You wouldn't think they're the same kit at all from looking at them. So, I think it's one thing that ICM are very good at. I think if Airfix, if you could take some of the habits of like different companies and combine them and get all the companies to do them, I think you'd have a phenomenal set of companies.
Yeah.
So ICM's video instructions, I think the way ICM create a tooling and then box it in different ways, all at the same time, to allow people to build different things, is a really good marketing way. Airfix have taken a very different, obviously deliberate marketing thing, that they'll produce a particular one, then they'll produce another one, but they'll withdraw the other one out of production. So you can't get the original Seeking, 48 scale Seeking, now that they've released the Jungly. So if there's stock, I sold my last one just before Christmas. I can't get replacements. Airfix have stopped it. So I would love it if, and I know Airfix have a stock problem, but it would be great if they, imagine you did the Jungly and you think, what, I would really like to do the search and rescue version, but you can't. It'd be great, and I think it would actually help Airfix. So I'd love to see some of those things. I'd love to see ICM do some starter kits in the way that Airfix do, because I think they are very well placed to do that.
Oh wow, yeah.
Lots of things that you think, well, if that company just did this, that would be really good. But anywho,
I keep nagging every time I speak to Dale at Airfix. The one thing I always bring up to him is the 172nd Halifax. Every single time I speak to him, before Italeri do it, a 172nd Halifax, because you've got so many versions you can do for your 2nd and 3rd, 4th releases. You've got so many schemes, coastal command ones, different tail, different noses, so the varieties there. And it's a British bomber. I mean, your Airfix.
Yeah.
I think they lost out on Sterling. So
I think the last people to do a tooling, a relatively recent tooling of it, were Revell.
Yeah, I've got one down here. Yeah,
I got it as well. You see, again, that was one that I bought at the time, with every intent of doing it, knowing I wouldn't be able to do it immediately. So
Be right back.
Okay, a couple of questions I missed up there. From Dark Star Projects. If that Dark Star is the film of the same name, I applaud you, sir.
Mhm.
One of my favourite films. It's the 50th anniversary of Space 1999 this year. Anyone got any Space 1999 models planned? That's a very good question, actually. I started a Hawk. Actually, I finished a Hawk. I haven't painted that Hawk. I mean, it's finished, built, and sprayed. I haven't put decals on. It's got quite a lot of decals, or decals, for those of you who prefer that pronunciation. But I would love to do an eagle as well. And I think I would like to do the 1/48 scale rather than I did the 1/72 scale Hawk. So that actually is a good shout for one of my 1 of 25, I think. But what about you, Gary? Any fan of Jerry Anderson products?
Yeah, Thunderbirds was my thing growing up. So I have a Fire Flash up there that I want to do.
Yeah, that's the best model ever.
I am so tempted to do it as a British Airways one. Just go for it as a BA one rather than the Transatlantic Airlines or whatever it was. It was awesome. But yeah, I love those sort of things. But growing up was definitely was Thunderbirds for me. I actually was talking about the Tiger Moth the other day, and someone said they were going to maybe try and do it as it appeared in the movie Thunderbird 6, which I thought was A, very niche knowledge, and B, a really good idea that I might have to pinch.
Yes.
So, they sell a decal set. Set. I'm so sorry. So they sell a decal set, but it's not for. I did the 1/72. Airfix. It was the best. It was great. But the decal set is not for the 1/72. I think it's 1/48 or.
Well, I've got a 1/48 Tiger Moth up there.
Nice. Yeah, they make a Thunderbird 6 decal set. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, this is good. Now I know one of the projects for this year is going to be
there we go.
Thunderbird 6. Excellent.
Awesome. So yeah, Space 1999. Good shout. I used to love I was a big fan. And of course, like many other children at the time, I thought that what was the doctor called? Eleanor? I can't remember. I thought she was lovely. I wanted to be Commander John Koenig. Not so much the Australian Eagle pilot. Can't remember his name. They were kind of different factions.
Yeah.
Then there was was it Maya, the shape-changing alien woman?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, a lot of people thought she was hot. But yeah, I mean
which is probably why they put her in there.
Well, absolutely. I think the whole ethos of Space 1999 and the vehicles and stuff were that they were realistic in the sense of potentially possible with technology of the then or near future. Yeah. So they do look, practical. They're not particularly aerodynamic because they don't need to be because they're in space.
Yeah.
And yes, they did have lasers, but can't have everything spot on.
Right.
Although now we are actually starting to use directed energy weapons, so maybe they were a bit ahead of their time.
I think also you look back at a load of these movies, including things like Star Wars and all that, and you think they have got all these amazing technologies to fly at incredible speeds and that. You look at the computers and they're rubbish. The graphics are shocking. And you think it's actually quite astonishing that they could think of like the mechanics stuff and be within the realms of possibility. And 50 years or almost 50 years later thinking, yeah, still works. And then you look at their computer graphics and you think, oh my good God, my Sinclair was better than that. How could they not imagine that in this galaxy far, far away, they would not have real-time holographic this, that, and everything in full color or whatever. They've got these little line drawn things going beep, 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 beep.
I think there are a couple of really good examples of how to deal with that. Is one, Star Trek Next Generation, when they were actually the original Star Trek, because you know, they went with technology which was, you know, they had these just little, you remember, like data chips, which are just like little blocks, you know. So they didn't look tech at all. But then tech doesn't have to look tech, right? You think of an SD card is just, I mean, exterior, it just looks like a little piece of plastic, you know, some copper contacts on. So in a way, they kind of just like were like, okay, don't show the tech because we can't predict it, which is quite a good call. And then the next generation, they actually said they had a problem because the data slates that they used, you know, which were just, they weren't real, they were just like bits of plastic, and then they put graphics on them. They said at the time they were making them, and Apple was starting to release stuff which was more advanced than the things they were showing for the 23rd century. So it's like, you have to rethink some of the stuff. And then the other one is Alien. So you think Alien was made in the 70s, and it didn't try and hide away from the fact that Nostromo, you know, had like green screens with just like data and stuff, because it was a mining ship, and you don't use cutting edge tech on, you know, basically a big mining ship. It's just you use what works, you know, what's robust and cheap, you know, and I think that's a good way of doing it as well. It's like, well, yeah, you're not going to have big holographic stuff because that's expensive, and these guys are miners. It's like, who cares? Julian says, I'd love ICM to do starter sets. Their quality would be a great introduction to the hobby and make the build enjoyable as a starter set should. Yeah, I don't think it's currently in their plan. I think they see themselves very much, you know, when I've spoken to Valeria, kind of off camera, if you like, as an intermediate company, not your first. It's kind of, you know, your fourth, fifth model, you know, that you're going into. They don't try to be necessarily easy builds in that way. Yes, they make their builds accessible, but they think of themselves as an intermediate kit company.
I remember the first time I think probably the first thing they sent me, one of the first things they ever sent me was the Cobra, the H1 Cobra kit, the 135th one, which is lovely. I made a beautiful, but there was one thing, they've got like this big snake, shark's mouth decal on there, and there's an aerial that sticks out the side of the thing, and you can't get the decal over the aerial. It's not got a cutout or anything. And so I wrote, and I got back in touch with Valerie and said, beautiful kit, however, this is the problem I have. And the first thing she said on the way back is, yes, well, remember ICM kits are maybe not for beginners. And I felt so put in my place. Having spoken to her and met her subsequently, I know that's not the intention, but I do, at that moment, I just felt like I've been told off by the headmaster. You know what I mean? But then she said, but I will take your comments to the engineers, and maybe there's a way we can work around it. But just in that one moment, I felt like that's all. I mean, literally, that's all.
I think Valeria is very good at speaking very plainly. I think,
great.
You know, I mean, I asked her in the videos, you know, the interview I did with her last year. I think it was last year. You know, about the cooperation with Revell, and she just said, you know, can't talk about that. It's like fine.
I saw her at Telford, and she was talking with someone else I was talking with, and they were discussing something rather, and she said, well, let me just check out the launch schedule for next year. And so I got a phone out and started doing this. I was going, oh, Valeria, maybe I'm not supposed to look at that. And she said, Gary, it's in Ukrainian. Look all you like. You don't speak Ukrainian. Again, I felt that tall again. I thought, what an idiot. But I'm
going to start brushing up on my Ukrainian now.
But just a smile on her face.
Show me again, Valeria. It's like,
you are properly making me now. That's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah. So I have missed some questions. I do apologise. I missed this one, which was from Simon's Modelling Shed. Would 400 kits count as a good stash? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I don't think there is. I mean, what is a good stash? Is a good stash a small one or a large one? Some people would argue that it's not good to have a large stash. Some people would argue that it is. So it's subjective, right? It's one of my favourite answers. It depends, right?
Yeah. Depends what you mean by.
there was another one. What's your stash size at the moment, John?
I try to keep it less than 15, 20.
Wow.
You're very disciplined compared to us.
Because I'll drive myself crazy. If I had a stash of like 50 or 100 kits, I'd go nuts because I would want to do them, to build them, to start them, to get into them, and then I just go crazy. But anyways, I've got, I don't know, I probably have maybe somewhere between 20 and 25 in the house right now. That's it for me. Yeah.
That's very conservative.
I mean, Gary's got a great.
Oh,
you can see behind him. Is that like nothing, or what? You got a bigger stash than that? Yeah,
that's about half of it. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
So, Stuart, have I decided 25 kits you're going to build? No, I haven't decided. I've got an increasingly large list, which I'll probably get people to vote on about which you want to see first. Obviously, I'll try to do more than 25. And there was another comment here. Guessing 25 is reduced. No, I'm not going to make excuses. I said 25 for 25. That's what I'll try and hit.
Good man.
Whether I'll be successful or not. I mean, I tried to build the ICM B26 in 24 hours, and that proved not possible.
Tricky. Yeah.
Close. One of the problems with it, I mentioned this actually. So I'm just about to release my 10 best and worst modeling experiences of 2024 video. And one of the things I mentioned in that is the problem with doing that kit on a live stream, building it in 24 hours. You could build it in 24 hours, no problem. But I wanted to give at least something of what the kit deserved. And that delays things a lot.
Yeah.
If you don't bother doing a wash inside, if you don't bother like doing all the interior, and it's like you can cut a lot out. But it seems criminal to do that.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
It's so nice, It's like, so one of the kits I will be doing is flat bait.
Okay.
Because I was really excited about the flat bait version when I first saw it in the catalog. I'm going to do some extra bits on that. I'm going to do it as it returned from one of its missions with a whole bunch of damage on it, which gives you a bit more opportunity to go nuts. And it did get into a bit of a state, old flat bait. There was another question that I missed, which I want to try and pick up. So bear with me while I.
One thing I did do this year, which I'm going to expand on, was with the B26. I wanted to put it into some sort of perspective, some sort of context. So what I did was I found out what that exact aircraft did the night before D-Day, what mission it had, found out where it was sent to bomb, got a map of the D-Day beaches and put like a line on saying it went to attack this, and then put some like recruiting posters around to fill up the gap. And it just sat on that. But with some crew figures and a guy painting the invasion stripes and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a diorama, but without putting it on a modeled base. It was like, I was thinking maybe doing like a Lancaster with underneath the map of Western Europe with the trace of the route it would have taken to and from the Ruhr Valley.
That's not bad idea.
So do a series of builds like that where you're not just building the aircraft, but actually saying this is what it did on that night, sort of thing. That's cool. So I'm going to try and do a few of those.
I think so. I did find one of the questions, but I just wanted to quickly, Kubrick's 2001 predicted the iPad. So actually, Stanley Kubrick's 2001 is also a stellar example of how to. I mean, it's a fantastic film. A lot of people will say, "Oh, it's boring and stuff." It's like, but
that's what
I would say. Read the book, then watch the film. It makes much more sense. It's a really, and it is way above its time. Just some of the effects that they do, practical effects, They just look absolute. I mean, this is a 60s film. You know, put that into perspective. 1960s film, and it holds up. A lot of those effects hold up today.
Totally.
You know, so again, very good prediction of near future, because it wasn't set in the 23rd century or whatever. Quick comment there. UFO interceptor. I had one of the, was it Dinky or Corgi? I don't know who did it, but one of the ones of that. It was green, metallic green.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, they were white in UFO, but quite why they decided to make it in green, I don't know. So the question that came up before, which I was reminded of, Gary, when you talked about the ICM Cobra, because that's actually a special hobby kit. And the question was, what do you think of special hobby? So I'll let you guys answer first, because
the 148th Cobra is special hobby.
Yeah.
You did a 5th is their own.
Right, yeah.
Which I think they then are licensing out to special hobby.
Yeah.
So it's like, but the 148th one I got the other day actually says special hobby on the inside. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you said the 48th. Yeah, the 48th scale is special hobby.
Absolutely.
You're right. The 35th is theirs. Yeah, because it's a special edition one, isn't it? The 48th one
with the matting.
They out.
Yeah. It's matting.
Yeah, I have exactly. I'm doing it actually at the moment. So.
Right.
Talking about not doing helicopters, and I've done like 4 of the damn things. So what do you think of special hobby then, Gary?
I've enjoyed some of the kits I've made of theirs. The Blackburn Skewer and Blackburn Rock were pretty good. There's just a couple of bits and pieces of it I wasn't really impressed with. I'm trying to think if anything that's really I can't think of any of the kits that really stood out as being outstanding. The 1/72 C Fire 47 that they do, the one with the counter-rotating props in the Korea colours, very, very biased, because that was my dad's squadron, 800 Naval Air Squadron, and his period, which was Korea. But the photo etch in that is beautiful. The kit is beautiful. The only thing it's missing is folding wings, which is like, it's a naval plane. Dudes, model the folding wings, for goodness sake. But everything else about it is actually really nice. The kit goes together beautifully. And as I say, the photo etch bits, even like having the fuses for the rockets that come out of the rockets and curl up and fit into the wings, but they fit really well. Though that I enjoyed. Other than that, they're fine.
What about you, John? Have you done any special hobby kits?
No, I have not.
That was a simple question and answer. I mean, from my side, special hobby have changed a lot in the last 30 years. So the special hobby that I originally knew from my second sojourn into modeling in the 90s, they were called special hobby really because they did specialized subjects. So kits that other people didn't do, or aircraft and special hobby were pretty much aircraft. You do have like what they called now, special navy or special armor. They have different names. It's all the same company, right? But they do some other stuff as well now. But my main kind of exposure to them was from Luftwaffe 46 stuff, like German paper project things that almost, got to. It was all the Wunderwaffe stuff that Hitler was kind of relying on to save him in those last desperate days. Completely ridiculous, well, I mean, he was insane, so it's not really surprising, but that kind of like reliance on, okay, we've got to get some technology that will work. And some of the things were really wacky. Some of the things you can see, because I think what was it, the Americans got, I can't remember which way around it was. I think Americans got the Focke-Wulf staff and the Russians got most of their equipment, like the drawings and stuff.
It was like a Operation Paperclip.
Paperclip, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can see the development of some of the Focke-Wulf designs, like the TA 183 and stuff, in things like the Sabre and the MiG-15. You know, the early jets. You can see that lineage from those German designers. And there were some, you know, Blom and Voss and things. And Special Hobby kind of did those. You know, and there weren't very many other people that did them. You could get some resin kits and, you know, some Eastern European ones which were pretty ropey. But Special Hobby were kind of the main one. MPM, I guess, was the other one. Special Hobby and MPM were the two. They've really changed from that. I did an unboxing of Special Hobby. I think it's the Panther 1, or I was going to do it, but actually somebody bought the kit, so I never got the chance. But looking at that kit, it was phenomenal, because Special Hobby were always limited run, so the plastic was a bit rough. You know, they relied on resin and photo etch to kind of make up the details, and the modeler to kind of finish it. Whereas now, it's like they're pretty much indistinguishable from a mainline manufacturer, you know, like Airfix or Edward or whoever. So it depends really on what the provenance of the kit is. Much like anything, right? It's like saying, what do you think of Revell? It's like, well, Revell when?
Yeah.
Revell in the 50s, the 60s, the 90s, the 2010s. They're 4 different companies, you know. Now, you know.
Yeah.
So Special Hobby generally, if you've got a fairly recent kit, are usually pretty good. I would say. You know, but if you're getting something older, you're probably likely to be able to make a good model of it. You're just going to need a bit more work, you know.
I don't have anything. She's begging for you know what's. I mean, I can't give her too much ice.
No
she
ice.
likes ice cubes, and
Yeah.
no, she's waiting for me to have my dinner so that she gets.
But she can get some. Yeah.
Lacore.
Pablo is a very good timer. It's like, it doesn't matter what time you give him breakfast. Like on a weekday when Maria's up and I get up after she's gone to work, you know, so sort of coming up to 9 o'clock, he'll have his breakfast. On a weekend, you know, he could have his breakfast. If we have a lion, he could have his breakfast at 11. Doesn't matter when he has his breakfast, but at 5 to 8 in the evening, he could be fast asleep. He could be, you know, he'll like suddenly get up and stretch, and it's just like, my clock tells me it's almost 8 o'clock and time for dinner. So let me like, oh yeah, we should probably eat as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Martin, if your Cobra is the larger, the 32nd or 35th, I can't remember which it is, it'll be the ICM.
Yeah. Both.
Yeah. So yeah, my bad for confusing things. It's the 48th scale kit, which is the Special Hobby. There were a couple of other little ones. Should just be able to cover off. So, question: would ICM starter kits get people into kit building? I think any starter kits, you know, if they're true starter kits, will get people into kit building. So, I think by far and away the best starter kits you can buy at the moment are the Airfix starter kits, because they're engineered for beginners, and they go together flawlessly. They've you know, they have everything you need, you know, bar snippers, to actually put the kit together. Yes, you can make a better job with more advanced tools, so they do have appeal to, you know, intermediate and modelers as well. They have low part count. You know, the engineering's nice. They've got nice detail. They don't have, you know, lots of excessive small parts. So thought has gone into what they are. Starter kits in the past, you know, in the 80s and 90s particularly, were just whatever kit was in the warehouse that they had a lot of, was at the right price point, shoved in with some paint and glue and a brush, which is not the way to do it, because some of the kits that were supplied in Revell's, Italeri and Airfix's starter kits were abysmal. Oh, Heller as well.
Yeah.
But I think the industry generally has got on board a little bit more with, or at least is getting on board a little bit more and following Airfix's lead, and thinking a little bit more about this, because it's far more easy to get information now. It's far more people being critical of the practice of not being transparent or putting old crap in a new box with a few paints, because you can't get away with it in the same way that you could before.
Mm.
Not that they should have ever tried to have, got away with it, but that's kind of when companies are run by company people rather than by people trying to understand their audience. That's kind of what happens, right, in any industry. So,
yeah,
I think where airfix have really done well with their starter sets, particularly the planes, is actually engineering right from the scratch, thinking someone who has never built a kit before is going to build this. How do we get them the best result? And I think the best thing that I think Paramjet invented it for the Spitfire was a clip-in canopy.
Mm.
So instead of getting glue all over your fingers and the canopy hazing up, you actually just put the front indent and you push the back and it clicks into place.
Yeah.
And it's there. It's solid. You don't have to glue it. And so suddenly you've got a nice clear canopy and it looks a bit like the box.
Yeah.
I think that was a piece of genius, that design.
Yeah.
And to carry it forward onto all the others, it's just,
and I think
like a starter is what they need to do.
other small pieces like the instructions in all of the starter kits, as far as I know, they tell you where to put the glue.
Yeah.
Have a little yellow piece where you actually put the glue, which actually for a starter, for us, it's obvious, right? We've been doing it for decades, but if you've never done it before, exactly where you put the glue, rather than putting it all over and on bits that don't touch anything, and then you've got, bits melting or glue just seeping out everywhere and getting it on your fingers, like you say, and hazing parts up. It's a small thing, but actually that has a big impact.
Totally.
Yeah. I would say as well, Airfix supply the best starter brushes in their sets.
Oh yeah,
They're
I've got loads of Humbrol 2 brushes, and I use them all the time.
They're not good brushes; they're decent brushes.
Yeah.
But look at the Revell. I got a Revell.
Oh.
I can't remember what it was. I think it was one of the. It was not the Christmas just gone. The Christmas before, I got a couple of the ship kits. I got the Titanic and the Victory. Just as a, I thought for 20 quid, it's worth a punt to see what they're like. The brushes that come in those are absolute garbage. It's like they start off, all the bristles are like this. It's just like, okay, I could probably cut most of them off and use it for dry brushing, but other than that, even wet, it's like it doesn't form a point. It's like, what are you going to use it for? It's really bad.
Yeah.
The paints, okay, maybe it's another point, but I think the only people that have really got the paints right, I know Airfix have done a lot with like, changing the little plastic bottles and things, but still, I think the only people that really got it right are Italeri with their proper Vallejo bottles, but of course they're a lot more expensive, those kits.
Yeah.
So,
but again, I mean, people say, everyone should be doing it like that. We have all these different tools, and then as Dale points out to me, well, you only want to get that set of tools once, maybe with your starter set. If you buy 3 or 4 starter sets, you've got 3 or 4 sets of nippers and things. Are you really going to feel that's what you want to pay for? Which is kind of an idea, but
no, I think it's I think getting a set of nippers in a starter kit is kind of.
But also
what are you going to do beyond the first step?
They could be missing out by having a very, very basic set of tools that you can then use across, just very, very simple.
Do you know the tool thing? I mean, again,
quid, something like that.
I did a whole video on this. It's one of the reasons I sell a toolkit in the shop, which is, and it's not. If you look at, I'll rewind a little bit. All kit manufacturers make crap starter kit tool sets. Okay, bar none, including Tamiya, including AK, and everything. Each of them might do 1 or 2 nice things in it. AK have probably the best nippers because they're single-bladed. They're not the best single-bladed, but they are single-bladed. Are they best for a starter? Maybe not. I think the Meng set has some really nice pieces in it, but there are always things like, usually it's the modeling knife isn't very good. The tweezers in most of them are garbage. The Meng ones are nice. The Tamiya one is very expensive for what you get. You get things like screwdrivers that you don't need as a modeler. They're really geared towards, because they're kits.
Yeah.
Obviously geared for all of their stuff, which includes the RC
Yeah.
people. So you're paying for stuff that you're never going to use, at least not in a modeling sense. So yeah, they all do terrible ones. I think Italia is one of the worst, but Revels and airfixes are also garbage. I mean, the set I sell has nippers, it has a knife, it has, I think, 2 tweezers, 2 sanding sticks. God, what else? It's got a little cloth, and it's just everything you need. And they're not the best things you will ever use, but they'll do you for your first sets of kits.
Yeah.
The nippers actually aren't bad, but you can use them for chopping up sprue and stuff once you've got your beautiful ones, or on tack-on plastic, which you wouldn't use single-bladed clippers on anyway, because the stuff is like titanium. So yeah, it doesn't take much thought, but I don't think many companies have put much thought into it. It's how much money can we make on selling some old tools. But anyway, rant aside. Okay, we are past the witching hour, so I'm just going to have a little look. I don't think we've had any questions coming in the last ones. Revell do great paint stirrers.
Right.
Well, I do say actually the best thing with a Revell brush is you just take the brush off it and you use it as a paint stirrer. I think that is the great thing. That's a good shout, actually, John. Testers brushes. Yep. Testers, sadly, no longer with us in the way that they used to be.
No. And Model Masters is gone. And
yeah.
Steve was asking, do you think there's, what do you think?
Not this year. Because they did the 1/24 scale Spitfire Mark 8 last year, I don't think we'll see a 24 scale this year.
I don't know.
We might do, but
yeah, but the only thing is the 124, the Mark 8 basically had everything for that when they did the Mark 9.
They do. They also have most of it for the Mark 5 as well, but I don't think we'll see that either.
No, I think maybe it's 3 years since the last. The Spitfire came out, so it seems that either this year or next they're going to, definitely, either this year or next.
If I had to put money on it, I'd put money on next year.
I
don't think it'd be 25. I'd be happy to be proven.
I'd like it to be. I'll see what Mystic Mug says at the weekend.
Cool.
That's bound to be right. Not at all.
Just another comment on Revell brush. The Revell Das Boot, the Mark 9. I think it's Mark 9. Is it Mark 7? It might be Mark 7.
I don't know.
Das Boot is a great show, by the way, if anybody hasn't seen it.
It's classic.
The original. I don't know if people have done other bits, but yeah. Watch it in the German with subtitles. Don't watch the dub thing. That's not right. Last one. Yevgeny, I won't attempt to say your surname because I will destroy it. Hi guys, I'm new to modeling. Bought an aircraft and acrylic paints in its set. Then I bought email paints by mistake. Should I use
maybe enamel
paints or acrylic for hand brushing? So enamel paints were used. I mean, I used to use enamel paints before acrylics came along. The railway modeling fraternity, generally, the majority of them still use enamel paints. Enamel paints do have a number of advantages. They are harder than acrylics. They have slightly different colors because of their chemistry and stuff. The main disadvantage of enamels is they take a long time to dry. So basically, it's 24 hours once you painted your subject before it dries. So if you've got something that you're going to need to paint something on top of, it becomes a long process, right? If you've got 3 or 4 colors to put on top of each other, that's 3 or 4 days because you've got to paint it, leave it to dry. There are ways of accelerating it, but especially for a newcomer, that's kind of it. You might be able to like paint it, let it dry for a few hours if you want to put a second coat on, thin coat, but generally it's just a long time that you've got to wait. Obviously, there's also solvents involved, so it's white spirit to clean stuff up, or turpentine substitute, something like that. So that can be, not very nice on your lungs or your partner if you get that stuff out, because it tends to stink up the house. You can get low odor ones, but they're low odor rather than no odor.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily bad. They're just different. They have their uses. Acrylics became popular because they don't have those disadvantages, right? They're very quick, 20 minutes, they'll be touch dry. They won't be 100% cured, but, so, yeah, it really depends on what you're looking for and what paint you bought. Because if you've got something like Humbrol 64, which is a really nice neutral medium light grey, works great as a primer on plastic, right? That you could then paint acrylics on top of, and that'll give you a much more robust finish than if you just painted acrylics, right? So you pays your money, you takes your choice. So you have that choice now.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Craig. Mark 7. Yeah. Oh, and then somebody else said Mark 9. So watch Das Boot, and then you can make your own decision.
Yeah, you know what? I might put this in after I have some dinner. I might put that in after this. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Craig says U96 with a type 7C. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
I know Craig has a book on submarines that he's going to send me to so that when I do the painting and the weathering on mine, which is a 9C/40, the new 144 scale that I built. As he's got the book, we'll defer to Craig for this one. So.
Yeah, he is an expert on these kinds of things. That's all he does is our boats and stuff. And he's got like a little library in his house, and yeah, it's great. So he's a font of knowledge.
He's got a little library in the Yamato he's building because it's that big.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you all so much for coming on and letting us discuss our experiences of the new year so far, and what we are thinking of and planning. We'll see if they actually happen to do in 2025. My thanks, as always, to Gary for joining me, and to John Alec for joining me as well.
Thanks for having me.
And I wish you all, as always, a very pleasant and happy new year. Hopefully, the next time I speak, I'm still going to be here. Hopefully, in a couple of times, I'll be in a new environment, and you can see what chaos I'm in then. But until then, thank you all very much, and have a great week. See you guys.
Thanks, guys. Take care.